February 28th, 2026, 11:08 local time. The Strait of Hormuz. The USS Decatur has just made history. Not the kind of history anyone wanted. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyer has become the first American warship since World War II to take 2 direct missile hits in a single engagement. The first Noor struck at 11:06:43, hitting the forward superstructure and killing 3 sailors. The second Noor struck at 11:08:11, hitting the aft section and starting fires that would burn for hours. 2 missiles, 2 hits. In 88 seconds, the Decatur went from combat ready to survival mode. I'm your host at U.S. Defense Review, where we analyze the military operations that define global security. The March 15th engagement was the final major attack of the Gulf confrontation, not because Iran chose to stop, but because after the American response, they had nothing left to attack with. 26 minutes after the second missile struck, American forces began eliminating every remaining Iranian coastal defense asset in a coordinated strike that would finally end the war. Let's understand how this happened. The attack on the Decatur was Iran's last major offensive operation. By March 2028, 18 months of confrontation had devastated their military infrastructure. Missile batteries destroyed, naval bases eliminated, production facilities rubbled, research centers erased. But the Iranians had been rebuilding, quietly, dispersing assets, hiding launchers, preparing for one final strike. Intelligence had detected some of this activity. American analysts knew Iran was reconstituting capability. They didn't know how much. The answer was enough. At 11:04, 2 Noor anti-ship missiles launched from concealed positions on the Iranian coast. The launches were coordinated, timed to arrive at the Decatur within seconds of each other. The destroyer's AN/SPY-1D radar detected both missiles at 11:04:32. Range, 18 nautical miles. Time to impact, approximately 130 seconds. 2 missiles. Plenty of time to engage. The Aegis system had intercepted similar attacks dozens of times during the confrontation. At 11:04:38, 2 SM-2 Block 3A missiles launched. Standard doctrine, 1 interceptor per threat. At 11:05:51, the first SM-2 reached its target. The intercept was successful. The leading Noor disintegrated 6 nautical miles from the Decatur. At 11:05:54, the second SM-2 engaged the trailing Noor. Miss. The Noor had executed a terminal maneuver at the worst possible moment, a sharp jink that threw off the SM-2's intercept solution. The interceptor detonated 35 meters from the target. Fragments struck the Noor but didn't destroy it. Time to impact, 48 seconds. Re-engage. Re-engage. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park, the tactical action officer, ordered. A third SM-2 launched at 11:06:02. The damaged Noor was closer now, inside 4 nautical miles. The engagement window was shrinking. At 11:06:28, the third SM-2 reached its target. Miss. The damaged Noor was flying erratically, its guidance degraded by the earlier fragmentation. The erratic flight made it harder to intercept, not easier. The SM-2's predictive algorithms couldn't anticipate where the wounded missile would be. Time to impact, 15 seconds. The Phalanx CIWS engaged at 11:06:34. The 20mm rounds reached toward the incoming missile. Some connected. The Noor was shredded, but not stopped. Large fragments continued on ballistic trajectories toward the ship. At 11:06:43, the largest fragment, the Noor's warhead section, mostly intact, struck the USS Decatur's forward superstructure. The impact killed 3 sailors instantly. Signalman 2nd Class Robert Chen, Operations Specialist 3rd Class David Williams, Quartermaster 3rd Class Jennifer Park. They were on the bridge when the warhead detonated against the windows. Fire broke out in the navigation room. The forward radar arrays were damaged. The ship's long-range communications were degraded. Captain Michael Thompson reached the bridge at 11:07:12, 29 seconds after impact. What he found was chaos resolving into order. The fire was being fought. The wounded were being evacuated. The damage was being assessed. And then the second alarm sounded. Vampire, missile inbound, bearing 067. A second attack. The Iranians hadn't launched 2 missiles. They had launched 4, and 2 had been held back. Time to arrive after the Decatur was damaged and distracted. The second pair had launched at 11:05 after the first 2 missiles were already in flight. They had followed a different flight path, approaching from a slightly different bearing. The Decatur's radar had been focused on the immediate threat. The second pair had been classified as possible contacts rather than confirmed threats. Now they were confirmed, and they were close. Range at detection, 6 nautical miles. Time to impact, approximately 40 seconds. The Aegis system responded automatically. 2 more SM-2s launched at 11:07:18. But the engagement geometry was terrible. Close range, short time, a ship already damaged and distracted. At 11:07:52, the first SM-2 intercepted the leading missile of the second pair. Kill. At 11:07:58, the second SM-2 engaged the final Noor. Proximity detonation. Fragments struck the missile. The Noor was damaged, but this time not enough. At 11:08:11, the final Noor struck the USS Decatur. The impact point was the aft superstructure, near the helicopter hangar. The warhead detonated against the ship's exhaust stacks, sending blast and fragments into the engineering spaces below. 2 more sailors died. Engineman 2nd Class Michael Johnson. Gas turbine technician 3rd Class Sarah Martinez. They were in the adjacent compartment when the warhead penetrated the structure. Fire erupted immediately. The helicopter, an MH-60R Seahawk, was caught in the blast. Its fuel tanks ruptured. The hangar became an inferno. The USS Decatur had been hit twice in 88 seconds. 5 sailors dead. A dozen wounded. Fires burning in 2 locations. Her combat capability severely degraded. But she wasn't sinking, and she wasn't helpless. At 11:10, Captain Thompson made his assessment. The ship was badly hurt. Forward superstructure damaged. Aft section burning. 5 confirmed dead. Multiple fires. Reduced radar capability. But propulsion was intact. The forward VLS cells were undamaged. The Tomahawk missiles were ready to fire. Weapons, Thompson said. Target both launch sites. Fire as fast as the system can cycle. At 11:11:14, the first Tomahawk launched. Then the second. Then the third. 4th. 5th. 6th. 7th. 8th. 8 missiles in 40 seconds. 4 per launch site. The Decatur emptied her ready Tomahawk inventory, while her crew fought fires and treated wounded. Thompson's transmission reached 5th Fleet at 11:13. 5th Fleet Decatur. We have been hit twice. 5 KIA, 12 wounded. Ship heavily damaged but still fighting. Have launched 8 Tomahawks at launch sites. Request, he paused, considering his words. Request you finish this. End it. Whatever it takes. Vice Admiral Richardson received the message at 11:15. Whatever it takes. The Decatur was the 12th American ship hit during the Gulf confrontation. She had suffered the most hits in a single engagement. Her captain was asking for an end. Richardson intended to deliver one. At 11:18, he authorized Operation Final Chapter. Not a strike, an elimination. Every Iranian military asset within range of the Gulf. Every missile battery. Every radar site. Every command center. Every facility that could threaten American ships. The target list was the most extensive of the entire war. 47 separate facilities across the Iranian coastline and interior. The assets converged from across the theater. The Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group contributed 32 F/A, 18 E/F Super Hornets, and 8 EA-18G Growlers. The guided missile submarines, USS Michigan and USS Florida, launched a combined 60 Tomahawk missiles. The cruisers and destroyers of 2 separate surface action groups added 48 more Tomahawks. 4B, 2 Spirit stealth bombers forward deployed to Diego Garcia, carried 64 precision-guided munitions. 8B, 52 H Stratofortress bombers contributed 192 JASSM cruise missiles. Total strike package, over 100 Tomahawks, nearly 200 JASSMs, 64 bomber-delivered JDAMs, 40 plus carrier aircraft with precision munitions. Target set, 47 facilities, everything that remained of Iran's ability to threaten ships. At 11:34, 26 minutes after the Decatur was hit, the first weapons struck. The 2 launch sites that had attacked the Decatur died first. The Decatur's 8 Tomahawks, plus additional missiles from the surface group. Nothing survived. Then the cascade began. Between 11:34 and 13:45, American weapons struck every Iranian military facility within 300 kilometers of the Gulf Coast. Missile batteries destroyed. 12 sites confirmed eliminated. Naval bases destroyed. The rebuilt facilities at Bandar Abbas, Bushehr, and Jask were struck again, this time with overwhelming force. Radar installations destroyed. 18 sites went dark permanently. Command centers destroyed. The facilities that had coordinated Iranian operations were obliterated. Ammunition storage destroyed. Thousands of missiles, rockets, and munitions were cooked off in chain reaction explosions. The B-2S struck targets deep inside Iran, facilities that had been off limits in previous strikes, research centers, production plants, the infrastructure that could rebuild Iranian capability. By 1400, the strikes were complete. Damage assessment took weeks to compile fully. The summary was overwhelming. 47 facilities targeted, 43 facilities destroyed or rendered non-operational, 4 facilities partially damaged. Estimated Iranian military personnel casualties, 1,200 to 1,500. Estimated missile and rocket inventory destroyed, 500 plus. Estimated coastal defense capability remaining, less than 10% of pre-war levels. Iran's ability to threaten ships in the Persian Gulf was effectively eliminated. The USS Decatur limped to Bahrain, escorted by 3 other destroyers. Her fires were extinguished by 1,500. Her wounded were evacuated by helicopter. Her dead were prepared for transport home. The repair assessment was extensive. 6 months for the forward superstructure, 4 months for the aft section. She would return to service eventually. Captain Thompson received the Navy Cross. His decision to launch counterstrikes while his ship was burning from 2 separate hits was cited as extraordinary combat leadership. The 5 sailors who died, Chen, Williams, Park, Johnson, Martinez, were buried with full military honors. Their names were the last American casualties of the Gulf confrontation, because Operation Final Chapter ended the war. Not immediately, not officially, but practically. Iran had nothing left to fight with. Their missile batteries were destroyed. Their naval bases were rubble. Their command structure was dead. Their production facilities were eliminated. They could rebuild, eventually, but rebuilding would take years, and the demonstrated American willingness to destroy everything suggested that rebuilding would only invite more destruction. Negotiations began 2 weeks after Operation Final Chapter. The ceasefire was signed 6 weeks after that. The Gulf confrontation, 18 months of attacks, counterattacks, escalation, and devastation, was over. The final accounting: American casualties, 127 killed in action, 412 wounded. Iranian military casualties, 4,000 to 5,000 estimated. American ships damaged, 12. American ships sunk, 0. Iranian ships sunk, 7. Iranian submarines sunk, 2. Iranian military facilities destroyed, 200 plus. The exchange rate was devastating. For Iran, catastrophically so. The United States had maintained freedom of navigation in the Persian Gulf. Oil had continued flowing. American allies had remained protected. Iran had lost their navy, their coastal defense capability, their ballistic missile program, their drone program, and their EMP program. They had killed 127 Americans and lost 5,000 of their own. 26 minutes. That's how long it took from the Decatur's second hit to the beginning of the final American response. 26 minutes to end a war. The Decatur is back in service now. She carries the battle stars of an engagement that nearly destroyed her. She carries the memory of 5 sailors who died defending her. And she carries the knowledge that she was the last ship hit. The ship that triggered the final strike. The ship that ended the war. That's history worth remembering. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. I'll see you in the next one.